entry into the Limca Book of Records 2013 for more school launched in shortest time and has been titled as Best K-12 School Chain of the Year at the South Asia Education Summit Awards 2015. I welcome you, Mr. Amol Arora, for thank you for coming to this panel discussion, sir.
Thank you for having me, Said. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Our third panelist is Mr. Vijay Gupta, who is founder of uh, Bachpan Play School and Academic Heights Group of Schools. He is a little running late. He had a meeting, so he will join us in a while. And we will also have a brief introduction when he is here with us in the meeting. So, without taking much time, I would like to start this conversation by first saying that yes, the National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Years is now at the verge of its implementation. And what would be better than listening to the people who are actually, even before this area of preschool was regularized by the governments, they decided to take action and implement and build a structure of preschools to enable the early childhood education for children between the age from age 3 to age 8. Now, to start with, I would like to ask the first question to Mr. Amol Arora. Like, what different were preschools doing when NCF wasn't there? And what changes are you bringing about in your school curriculum and pedagogy to incorporate the national curriculum framework?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think broadly what the NCF and earlier what the NEP talked about, progressive preschools were already doing that. So it did not come as a surprise or something like, "Acha, aise padhana tha." It was never like that.
Yeah,
So we were already doing that. But however, having said that, I think even though we represent about 2,000 preschools in India, there's a vast majority of preschools out there who were running as a standalone units with with no structured direction, lack of vision, lack of understanding of. So their focus was more of a daycare approach where the mothers would just drop off the children for either she has to go to work or she just needs relief for 3 4 hours while let the child learn something, play, socialize, and that was the purpose. So I think what NCF is going to do is really impact these kind of schools where there was no standardization. So when we talk about schooling from class one onwards, everyone knows basically if you're following ICSE or NCR, CBSE for NCRT. So everybody is going on the same direction. So if tomorrow if a child gets transferred from one city to another, the child would have covered broadly the same topics, and it's easy. So that shows standardization across the country. But before class one, that was not there. So I think this is going to happen. So that is one is standardization is going to happen. That is going to be good. And secondly, which is it will bring a lot of vision and give direction and exposure to these schools who are not really having any kind of vision of what they were trying to achieve. So I think that is where it aligns the whole country. That's what I feel is going to help. So it was not something where we've really changed our course of direction because NCF has come, and we're going to continue teaching the way we believe is right. We believe that is in the best interest of the child. And but it's just going to be, I think, a good game changer to get everybody, even including parents as well, because parents sometimes come with unrealistic expectations as well. So I think this will
yeah.
be, it sets the conversation for the whole country that how we are going to do pre-primary education.
That's amazing. That yeah, obviously it is going to be a game changer for the schools who do not have the right guidance because this was not regularized previously. But where you people have the chain of schools, you build a structure that can really help preschools in the franchise model also or in your own schools as well. So that's really insightful that what you have shared. Before we go ahead, we have our third panelist, Mr. Tijay Gupta here. So I would like to introduce Mr. Tijay Gupta. Mr. Tijay Gupta is the co-founder and COO at Bachpan Play School and Academic Heights Group of Schools, which has more than 1,200 branches across India and Nepal. He has been awarded by Business World 40 Under 40 Under Entrepreneur Award in 2020, and he holds a graduate degree in political science honors from Delhi University and has a vast knowledge and inclination for computer science and management. Owing it to this interest and talent, he went on to pursue a lot of popular and market-driven certifications and programs conducted by universities across the globe. He has been an eminent speaker, moderator, and panelist in more than 200 webinars and seminars pertaining to education and technology for national and international repute. As an entrepreneur, he has been awarded with many titles which recognize his amazing contribution in play as well as formal school sector. I welcome you, Mr. Tijay Gupta. Thank you so much for coming to our panel today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So moving ahead, my next question is from Mr. Preetham. So you know that this age group between 3 to 8 is an age group where the NCF talks about like from preschool to grade 2 because this child will go in grade 1 in the first grade. So now preschools which are mostly defined and which are not, which do not have mostly the grade 1 and 2, here the preschools, the preschool, will we have that kind of first and second grade now? Do you think with the new structure specified by NEP of age group 3 to 8, stand alone preschools which would find it tough to survive?
Uh, Good evening, everyone, and hi to Amol and Tijay. Uh, Looking forward for today's session. And Hamid, Hamid, you are making my things easier by asking me this question. Hamid, and to all the listeners, when we talk about a Stellenol preschool, it is like a gift given to us by the Ministry of Education, right? After being in the industry for 18 years, right? And we got the new education policy after 34 years. And what is that? What you call as? I always have said the same thing. Now we have got a parent, right? We were all orphans when we were running a small preschool here and there, and there were nobody who used to regulate us or to give us guidelines to run or making it compulsory in terms of education. So at least the new education policy has given us the recognition that this is be the part of the school education, and this is will be the compulsory education part of it. So yes, small towns, small villages, now every parts of the country will make sure that the children goes to an early childhood center at an early age. Now coming back to your question, as that standalone school will get the grade 1 or grade 2, I do not think so. That as on today, even after 3 years of the new education policy, I don't think any state government has come forward to say that standalone preschool will be able to make and run grade 1 and grade 2, right? So thanks to the new education policy, that now yes, the child will come to preschools early, and they'll be doing all these 3 years of nursery, LKG and UKG at the preschool, standalone preschools. And now it may take another year, 2 or 3 to make it compulsory. As compulsory means you need a transfer, you need a certificate to go to the next level of next grade of the school. So yes, from nursery to LKG, LKG to UKG. So we are still waiting for it. And yes, we have seen a lot of enrollment has increased in rural, semi-rural and small towns in terms of after the new education policy, whatever the message has been passed on to the public, parents are behind the uh, preschools and play school education. So looking forward for the same.
Yeah, that's amazing. That now more people are engaging and want to get admission of their child in the preschools as well, which was not very much engaged previously. There were anganwadis, there were other things as well. But as you really rightly mentioned, that in the rural India also, due to the awareness of the NEP and the preschools, the early childhood education, the importance of the early childhood education, now it has been promoted. And certainly it is still a question whether the preschools will be allowed to adopt the grade 1 or 2, or they will be there at the preschool itself. So moving ahead, my next question to Mr. Tijay is like, see, we talk about technology, we also talk about the play-based learning. So the NCF promotes a play-based and experiential learning approach. How can technology be used to enhance play-based learning in preschools while adhering to NCF principles?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening to all our viewers. Thank you, Hamid, for this wonderful opportunity. And hi to Amol ji and Pritam. So, first of all, sorry being a little late. So, uh, first of all, NSF is a wonderful approach if taken properly. Amol ji has wonderfully answered that yes, standardization can be done, and I think it's very important for any industry to be get standardized. Pritam ji has mentioned that uh, we were like adopted child, and now we are being standalone. So I think that's a good term to say all together about NCF. So I think it's always a good approach to get something on the back front which works easily for every one of us. Now parents have a role. Now teachers have a say. Now as a school we have a skin in the game. Coming back to this question, yes, tech is an important part of any education, be it preschool, be it primary, be it middle, secondary, anyway. But yes, for preschoolers, it matters most because the kids are small and it is obviously very easy for them to make understand any concept with the games, with the video driven mechanism, with the devices we have got, or with any kind of tech support. So technically, even before NCF, if you look at the past 4, 5, 6 years, already there are many tech tools available. There's already a play-based approach in the market, and thanks to COVID, many of players have come down with these kind of tech-based devices or tech-based curriculum or tech-driven games where our child is able to learn and understand it. But now with NCF, the parents have also understood that these app or these technologies have a say in education. Earlier we were like, when we were small, we only have books or notebooks to be done at, but now we have the worksheet, we have the game driven which teach numbers, which give English. So I'm not naming any company, but many of the companies are working in this field. So I think that's a wonderful approach with NCF. And yes, tech always plays an important role. We need to monitor that with tech, the teacher's role shouldn't be lessened down. Right? What happens sometimes, like if we take more tech, the teacher role will be lessened down. Coming back to say chat GPT. So when I used chat GPT for the first time, I felt a simple thing that, say, after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I might not forget what I have to write. My notebooks, my pen, everything will be lost because now I don't have to think and write anywhere. So tech should be used smartly by the school. That's more important. But yes, it's always our role. Thank you, Hamid.
Yeah, thank you so much for enlightening us with your thoughts. And I would also like to ask, add on this question. I would like Mr. Preetham and Mr. Amol views on it as well. On the same question, as we are talking about the play-based learning, the NCF also talks about some Jadui Pitara. So, what are your thoughts on that if you talk about the play-based learning?
Uh, Let this question open for Jadoo Pitara because I don't believe in such comments. Reason being, I always see as an implementation. Putting up something is very good. You give me a platter, but until and unless I finished it, the platter is no use for me. Yes, there is an option behind it, but how to use it effectively, because we are a big country with different state boards and with different mentalities and with no standardization for teachers also. So I think we have the Pitara, but even if you use 10% of that, 15% of that, 20% of that, so that can give us emphasis on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's always, there is always some scope of improvement in that. We can't adopt everything which has been introduced, but always a feedback as we are practically working in the area with the teachers, with the students. So what works, I think we know it better. So moving ahead, my next question is to Mr. Amol. As we know, the assessment strategies, the way the assessments were done previously, the assessments were now the NCF talks about assessment for learning instead of assessment of learning. So, and also I would like to know from you, as you are also into the tech part, you also know a lot about the artificial intelligence tools that we do, that teachers should use, the schools are using. So what specific assessment strategies and tools have been implemented in your preschool, or you are looking forward to implementing those to ensure continuous and formative assessment in accordance with the NCF's guidelines?
I think assessments has always been a challenge because whenever it comes to assessments, parents especially get very competitive when it comes to grades and marks, even at this stage. So you need to understand that it's okay to say that assessments for learning should happen. but we also need to consider that the teacher quality, especially the preschool level. If you make one way is where you give a test and the child gives an assessment, you get a grade, which is not suitable for children. We know that. However, what is the alternative? Alternative is things like observation, maybe anecdotal assessments, maybe so these are portfolios, and so these are something which requires a lot of skill set from on this part of the teacher. It requires a low student teacher ratio as well, and also understand that sometimes assessments uh, end up becoming the purpose of education, like what's happening with the class 12th examination right now. After ninth you're supposed to be, अच्छा आप serious हो जाओ, अब तो serious होने का time है, तो क्या हम 8 तक मजाक कर रहे थे बच्चों के साथ? So it's something that I fear that too much focus on assessment, especially at this age, can drive our teaching towards assessments, and then you the purpose of why we were assessing gets lost into a kind of a rat race that starts up very soon. And it has to be, you have to remember that keeping understanding the ability of teachers and making it a fair assessment, where otherwise a parent coming and saying कि उसके बच्चे को ज़्यादा क्यों दिए, मेरे बच्चे को कम क्यों दिए. And if it's observational, anecdotal, it'll be very hard for based on, if you look at the typical preschool teacher, pre-primary teacher, to justify why this happened as well. So I think before implementing any assessment platform, you need to orient the parents as well. That is the first step. Of course, you have to train the teachers, but also you have to orient the parents to uh, be with us in this journey and understand where we are coming from. If you directly say, okay, now NCF has said no more grades and exams and tests, and we're going to do this kind of assessments, it'll be a shocker. It'll be chaos all along. It'll be, imagine a child who has done nothing wrong, but because of some incorrect observation on the ability of, it's almost like when you see this in cricket, when you have an umpire decision, umpire's given out means umpire decision is final. So imagine how much pressure it puts on the child. I mean, I can visualize parents putting pressure, but their marks come at that age. So I think assessments, the focus of assessments should not be there. So we need to, if when we are implementing this, yes, there are ways, as I said, observation is there, anecdotal assessments, portfolios, and of course a little bit of verbal assessments can also be taken. But at the same time, we need to get all the stakeholders to understand what is where we are going, and if we are able to do that, then that transition will happen. And this is where I feel, I think teacher also mentioned this, that making policies is very different. But what is happening at the ground level with large students in a classroom, teachers not having those capabilities to make those fair assessments of every child's development on so many parameters. For example, CCE, which was introduced earlier, was good idea in principle, but just badly implemented. It could have been a game changer for education, but unfortunately it was rolled back. So I think we need to, for pre-primary and foundational stage, I think we need to do it a bit carefully. The intent is right, but it has to be done very, very carefully, keeping the stakeholders in mind and their abilities and their interest. And everybody has, especially adults, we always think about what's in it for me. So teachers also have to understand why they should learn this, why should they do it a different way. So it'll be a transition time, and hopefully we'll all be able to do this transition. And as you said, assessment for learning should happen. So that gives us feedback on where, less feedback on what the child is, but more feedback to the adults as to what needs to be done. I think that is the purpose of assessment. We adults, parents and teachers should be assessing, and we assess, it's our assessment, not the child's assessment, not necessarily. That focus has to shift from being something where we judge the child and say, okay, very good, or beta tumne to is marks अच्छे नहीं आए, to something that we all look at ourselves as well, because we are the ones who can change we need to change. If a child is not learning, the teacher needs to change her teaching style rather than expecting the child to adjust. So I think once that happens, I think we'll have a better assessments and a better understanding at adults. And as you mentioned about AI, and I see AI is a great tool here, because the amount of data that we can capture in schools is absolutely phenomenal. Every day, every child, through not just observations, but even through machine sensors, attendance, their interest levels, what they are surfing on online, what kind of topics they have. If we bring all this together and we put in this data about what the child has been doing, I think when we talk about creating personalized learning paths for the future, this will set the right foundation for creating personalized learning paths for the future as well. So I think that is where that assessments can feed into that data that feeds into AI, will give the adults kind of dashboards on every child, which will really help us adjust our teaching styles, or for the parent to understand where they need to work on with their child. And I think those dashboards for children are going to be a game changer. I think that I'm looking forward to that.
That's very interesting. Even I would like to add here that I was listening to Alak Pandey, if you know, the Physics Wala founder, and he mentioned that how they are using AI in the classroom. Uh, in the test papers that they are conducting, they are actually analyzing the answers, and they are analyzing the data on the points. Like if there is an answer that has been wrongly done by X number of students, that means that that one point, that one concept is not clear. So they are getting that kind of data on what concepts they need to work on, they need to train their children on. So that kind of data gives a feedback, because we are doing an assessment of overall all the students in the classroom, but we are not able to identify which at what pace is at what children which children is at what pace. So to identify and teach the children according to the understanding and where they are right now, I think that kind of data through AI is going to really help in improving the quality of education. And thank you so much, Mr. Amol, for sharing your thoughts on AI as well, and on the assessment, which is very important in the early childhood education. So moving ahead, my next question is to Mr. Preetham, and I would like to ask you about the mostly about the infrastructure that we already have. And so what measures can be taken to create age appropriate child centric classrooms and learning areas that encourage hands-on experiences and experimentation in line with the NCF's play-based approach?
Uh, Thank you. And to understand this play school, preschool, this kindergarten, nursery schools, the first thing comes to everybody's mind is child, and child means play. This is what we all believe, right? The child is too young to understand the benches, table, chairs, right? Sitting areas, right? They are not comfortable. They are, see, if you see all these preschools and play schools, these are all colorfully made. Even the colorful chairs, tables, the surroundings, the toys, whatever you can see, it's all like colorful. We have tried to bring the environment so that the child feel comfortable. The child thinks that if I'm entering to this area, this play area, I'm going to comfortably be there for the next 2-3 hours. So it is the environment which we are all trying to create, so that the child coming to the preschool for day one, which is almost like a new, different location, leaving a house, leaving mother and father, and going to be staying with strangers for the next 2-3 hours, right? So that it's naturally been done in the initial part of it, and we have to use the same environment for the child to learn, right? As even Amol said in terms of assessment, right? It is not their assessment; it is our assessment. So it is like our things to understand the child first. It's not that you need to think that I'm going to do this and your child is going to learn. Sorry, you need to understand the child, that how this child is going to be there with us. You need to understand the child. The language plays a role. When this comes to you, that play nature of your teacher, the play nature of your environment will only can hold the child for long. Now coming back to personalized requirements, coming back to toys, coming back to the, let's say, Montessori, when we talks about the playway method of education. Play means it is like a physical activity where a child is free to move. A child wants to play. A child needs a slide. The child needs a cycle. The child needs a rocker. And child needs some tangible things to play, friends. It's not like that you are going to give a lecture for 30 minutes and the child is going to see and learn from it. Sorry, it's not going to happen. So when you talk about a concept of Montessori, using all the apparatus which is available in the market or which is available in the classrooms, a teacher even can use it and to make the best out of the learning. Even we do not have that. Even we do not have that. We have the basic things called sand. We have clays. We have pencils available. We have crayons available. We have papers available. Right? How that is available and we can play. Even that is not available, how we all can mingle with other children. See, even a child cannot communicate well in English or Hindi or any other languages to another children, but they can play for n number of hours together. That is that play nature of the child that brings that friendship, that friends in the preschool area itself. So play is the first right of the child. And if you see, even I represent EC as a vice president, and when we have done just before pandemic 2020, we had a play policy for India. We have given the same policy to the government of India also. And we need to understand that child means and play, and you need to have that environment. Even I am okay if the child comes to a school and wants to play for the whole 3 hours, and he do not wants to sit with books, paper, pencil, and he do not wants an assessment. Fine enough. So it's the environment which we need to create with tangible things where he can play for hours and hours.
That's right. That's right. If we are giving the environment a second home to a child in the school itself, and an environment which is safe, and for the in the preschools, that is what the children are there to learn with the play-based learning that we are talking about. They should be have that environment, those kind of tools, the toys, and the productive tools which are there, like building blocks and other things. So thank you so much, Mr. Preetham, for highlighting on that. Now, my next question is from Mr. Tijay on, and as we know that as the new policy is there, the changes are going to be there. At the same time, the teachers need to upskill themselves. So, how can a teacher prepare themselves for the upcoming challenges with NEP? What professional development opportunities or training programs do you think the preschools should offer teachers to equip them with the necessary skills and knowledge for effective technology integration in alignment with the NCF goals?
Right. So thanks, Amit. Uh, with any policy which comes the problem. So what happens? Like we create a policy, we try to implement it, but it's not being implemented 100% because we don't have the backup resources for that. Take any example. You take about EV cars. Before that, CNG was introduced. So car was there, but there were no CNG pumps. 3R
Yeah,
line was there. 3R lines were there. So I think this happens with NEP also. We always talk about getting this from the school, getting that from the school, doing this for the child, but where are the educators? So of course, getting a good educator with a new curriculum, with their assessment, with their teaching method, so entire system needs a shift, right? So in those terms, if you're talking about teachers, our teachers very well equipped with the curriculum which was given to them for the preschool or for the kid segment, but they are not exposed, I'll say the word exposed, to the system which is being implemented from now onwards. We look back at COVID and always say tech was the good factor, but how the teachers were trained? Teachers were trained half-heartedly because again that was being done remotely. So I think training the teachers is the most important aspect to get the deliverables best, because we have a new system, new curriculum, new assessment patterns, as Pritam Bhai was also saying, and new teaching methods is being implemented with NEP. Now, coming back to us, how we are going to do it. Of course, it's a cumbersome task. I'm not saying it can be done on 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. It needs a regular training. So earlier, what was happening? Our teachers were literate, but not digitally literate. So we try to make them digitally literate. We try how to use the technology. Then comes the problem solving, how to understand the problem and how do you solve the problem of the kid, or just sharpen the skills of the kid. It is not mandatory you take a book for 3 hours, 2 hours and teach a child. It is about teaching a particular thing to a child within that particular time frame which is being given to them on a perfect platform. मेरा कहने का मतलब ये कि it is not important कि आपने कॉपी लिया और नोटबुक में लेके बच्चे ने नोट किया, but it is important that child should understand the concept that while when they are going ahead they should not face any problem with that. The communication was a problem with teachers which we tried to improve in our schools. We feel like, okay, those 8-10 students which initially was sitting on the first bench or second bencher was a part of that communication, other student was not that. So now the tech has given that platform that everybody is being communicated, because apps were there, the system can be implemented to them, the communication can be sent to them, the communication can directly be sent to the parents also or to the stakeholders also, that what is happening in the classroom thanks to entire system. Now, teachers lack the aspect of creativity. So with NEP in mind, with NEP in thing, now the creativity part is being taught to them. The beautiful skills of or their talent or their extra imagination thing given to them. So that is being taught to them. those terms. Critical thinking approach, the ethics, social responsibility. I think these are the key aspects of training session to our teachers. What I'm trying to say that like now we are not making a batsman or a bowler. Now we are making all-rounder player. We are looking at all-rounder teachers which can look at except the education or beyond the education, they can look at other aspect of the child. But before that, they should be trained manually. They should be trained physically. They should be scientifically trained in all those aspects. I'll just give you one example. Say 5, 7, 10 years back, we have many problem with the temper of the teacher. Teacher has beaten the child. Why would it happen? Because teachers were not trained for that. They were not told the system. They were implementing the teacher. We are not giving academic training now because they are very well groomed for that purpose. I think more of a collaborative kind of training which can improve behavior, their skills, their ethics, their relationship with parents, with teachers. I think that's a way to go forward. Thank you.
You are on mute, Hamid.
Oh, I think I lost my connection while Tijay was speaking. But thank you so much, Mr. Tijay, for highlighting on the technology part, like the digital literacy, which is very much important for teachers right now to first understand the tools which are there and make effective use of it. But I would also like to have some more inputs on the same part of the training, how that can be done, or what particular skill, the 21st century skill, which teachers should learn now, which will be helpful for them 5 years down the line. So, Mr. Amol, I would like your insights on that as well.
I think tools are not so important. Tool is just a tool. I mean, it's with what technology to use. I I don't look at that as a game changer in that sense. I think the more important thing is about the why of why, what teachers, why is somebody a teacher, and if your heart is in the right place, the how and what's will kind of. I'm just going a bit philosophical down the line, yeah, but that's where I feel see, for everything, things are changing so fast. Today, I could say, okay, this is a great tool, this is a great technology. We're all talking about generative AI this year. Last year, it was all about blockchain and all that. It's going to keep changing. It's going to keep changing. I think what's not going to change is the human aspect of why somebody is an educator. I think if you have that figured out, if your heart is in the right place, the how and what will all keep changing, and that's the world that we are now have entered now. So I think I mean, what should your teacher do that will be a game changer 5 years from now? Have been there for the right reasons. I mean, don't look at this as just I could not get any other job, so I became a teacher. Kind of let's change that scenario. And I think how will that change? So I'm just going into a bit deeper into the whole crux of it. But I think what will attract it is money, of course. And how will money come into the factor is, again, can I increase the fees? Can the number of schools open? That fees is determined by the market, affordability. But I see that the number of preschools that are opening are increasing more and more. And every school that opens is fighting for talent. And I've seen this, especially if you look at the schools in Delhi NCR region, where there are many schools and they're all chasing talent. Teachers tend to leave every year because they've got great opportunities. Today, a pre-primary education teacher in Gurgaon can come for, the salary starts at 25,000 rupees. This is more than a headmistress salary in a small town. So now, as we see more and more schools open up, that will automatically create demand for more and more teachers, which will hike up the salaries as well. And that is how we get more better talent to come by choice. Then if their heart is in the right place, they will figure out the tools. They will absorb the training. I mean, I could keep doing training still now. CBSE, for example, is doing a lot of training. Everyone's doing training, but at the end of the day, what I see is most teachers sitting with their hand like this and just waiting for the certificate. Certificate
And the
मिलेगा या
video,
नहीं?
and the video recording if it is online.
Yeah, but video recording, what people want, we become like, we are hoarders of, we have still that mindset.
Yeah.
Free ka video ka, how many people are asking for recording over here? They'll never watch it again. If somebody's leaving right now and saying, "Sir, aap na mujhe video de dena, I'll watch it." There's thousands of better content on YouTube. How much have you spent? How much time do you spend on YouTube learning?
True.
We all spend it on Instagram for using it
Browsing.
for stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
scrolling up. So I think the key is the heart. I mean, if teachers start coming here for the right reasons, and of course there are people who want to contribute in education, but they don't do it because the money is less. So I think
Yes.
when the money part comes in, we will start attracting better talent. Why are Indians so focused on becoming computer engineers? It's not that हमें कोई engineering का कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा हमें यहाँ software आता है. It's just because it's the safest path to a successful career in India or abroad, anywhere we want. So everyone suddenly, are we naturally computer engineers? Something, there's nothing wrong. It's just that we saw it as an easy money. So I think once that comes into education, we get better people in as teachers. The teacher training, the pedagogy, the assessments will all start taking care of it. Otherwise, we can keep trying to repair something which is unbreakable, and we're trying to make it work. We're trying to make it work, but it's just a struggle. So, and being at the foundational stage, this is, I mean, the height of the building is determined by the strength of the foundation, and the foundation of the children is weak, of the whole generation of the country is weak, because that's the kind of teachers we had in our schools. That's the kind of focus we had. So I think that needs to change fundamentally. And I think NCF is a great step forward in this. As Preetham also said, we have a structure now. We have a structure in curriculum. I don't see play schools having to run preschools. I think NCF basically is a curriculum framework. So it's just making so otherwise, before class 1, it was just an abrupt jump to class 1. Suddenly, all of a sudden, everyone wakes up. So I think now it will be a gradual shift from home to higher education. I think that is what is going to be. So preschools will have their own place. They have to be in the neighborhood. And I think I just see more and more competition. And then, of course, Darwin's theory of natural selection, whoever is doing a great job will survive, who doesn't should close down because parents don't want it. So once I think this kind of energy comes into the preschool sector, I think that will solve a lot of problems for everybody. And we'll see a much higher standard of preschooling in this country. So I've taken your answer way away from what you were expecting me to talk about ChatGPT or some kind of, that tool on which is Mid-Journey or something like that, right? Or AI powered Excel sheets. नहीं, वो सब नहीं चाहिए teachers को. Technology is just one tool, like Blackboard एक tool है, notebooks is a tool, teaching aids, wooden teaching aids are a tool, technology big tool है. So let's keep it at that. It's not a game changer. It's just one more, something to our arsenal as a teacher. That's it.
Yeah, but you have also highlighted a very important point here about like there are a lot of preschools that are opening. At the same time, we have a lack of resource because there are a lot of teachers who are coming by choice, but the fact is that there is no awareness to get into the teaching profession when the children are in their higher education and at a later stage. So they decided after a certain age that they can also teach. They realize it while they are taking tuitions or they are teaching. They realize, okay, we can also teach students, and that is how they also discover like they should go.
I disagree there. I disagree there, because in fact teachers are right in front of them. The role models are right in front of them.
Right in front of them.
But the way the society looks at teachers does not make them feel. The way we look at a movie actor when he's coming into the airport, उसका video ले रहे हैं. Teachers का तो कभी video नहीं लेता कोई class से बाहर आते हुए. So I think that we need to change our respect of how we look at teachers. So money is one part, and this sense of respect, the discussions that are happening in the families today and at our homes as to why a teacher is the one who creates other professions, the respect, the guru, the social impact of a teacher. I mean, all of us, TJ and all, we all feel proud of the number of students who graduate from our preschools. We very proudly say those numbers in lakhs today. So that's social impact. I get goosebumps every time I say 4 lakh kids are straight from our schools. So I think that kind of what a teacher does and their impact in the society, like we respect an army person, I think that kind of respect needs to come for teachers, and the role models are right there. So it's not that pata nahi hai. If you ask a group of class 12 students, how many of you would like to be a teacher? कोई नहीं हाथ खड़ा करेगा.
That's what I'm talking about.
The kids are going to laugh. वो हंसेंगे उसके ऊपर. क्या हो गया? इसको.
Yeah.
That is not correct. There's something fundamentally wrong as a society if this is happening.
Yes, that is true. That is what I'm also talking about. Like,
I'm sorry.
it is right in front of them, but they are not. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like we should get into that. Well, the
Yes.
conversation can go for hours on these kind of topics, but thank you so much. And I would like to conclude our discussion over here on the topic aligning preschools with the national curriculum framework. I would like to thank Mr. Amol Arora, Mr. Tejay Gupta, and Mr. Preetam Kumar Agarwal for coming to our community platform and enlightening us with your thoughts on the questions that were asked. And thank you so much, all the participants who joined in. And over to you, Raki.
Yes, sorry. I really loved what Mr. Amol Arora right now said, that teachers ka koi photo nahi leta, and the kind of respect that teachers should also be getting, like any army person. I don't think that's anyway close to happening, because as you rightly said, that if you were to ask any 12th grader if you would like to become a teacher, and they would be like, no way, I would never want to become a teacher. So just wanted to touch upon this aspect. This is very close to my heart, and I'm sure many of the educators would be wanting to know this question, that answer to this question, that why is it that the perception of the teacher is the way it is today? Is it because teachers are responsible for creating the perception that they have created, or is it because the society at large is responsible for doing what has happened?
Address back to me. I mean,
yes, please.
I think as I said, one is a conversation in the media, in our homes, as a community, as a society. We need to accept there's a problem here. And there was a video which has gone viral recently. It was made by Navneet Publications about you seen that there are 4 professions, and one was an army profession, one was.
Yes.
And she talked about how the teacher was the most important thing. That realization has to happen. I think schools need to do that. Secondly, I think as a society, as I was talking about IT, why is IT so popular? Is that we have it's a cultural thing that we're actually coming out from a poverty-driven country to a middle class. So money is so important that we're judging people's responsibility on the amount of money they earn also. And I think that is also one part of it. I don't know, Preetam, Tijay, you want to add on to that?
Yes.
Why is this happening? I mean, I could just at the top of my head.
Recently I was invited at a panel discussion, and that's where I was asked this question, that what do we do about the perception? How is it that the perception can be changed?
Yeah.
To which, of course, largely I feel that it's the educators who are also equally responsible for creating the perception. But at the same time, if schools could come forward and have these kind of discussions with the parents, and also involve them in classrooms to come and observe how it is to teach today's students, because it's really challenging. I mean, I've got a teenager at home, and my heart skips a beat almost every second hour, because he's up to something which is really challenging for me to understand, because if how they are, their minds, the way they work. So it's really, really challenging to address these teenagers in the classroom. And also, on the other hand, the early learners, who are high on energy. So how do we go about bringing about this change?
One is just watch Amit Tandon's stand-up comedy, which he just posted last week on. Really funny. I could completely relate to it as a teenage parent. So I think one point is that you mentioned that teachers have to be that role model as well. And I think it is a vicious cycle, right? So if teachers who are passionate, I would want to say, mujhe aisa banna hai. When I see that, but kids don't see that passion amongst teachers. Again, it's coming from the fact that the kind of teachers that are there in the classrooms. So I think when we attract better teachers with better salaries, we get better people who are by choice. And I would say, mujhe aisa banna hai. And I would say, I want to become a teacher because the way you made me feel, I would feel like doing it to thousands of kids, and nothing would make me happier if I could do that. And I think as a society also, as I said, we're coming into a middle class society. So today we can afford to take a risk. Today we can afford, thanks to the BPO and IT, today kids are experimenting with different careers. So maybe we'll see that change. I'm not completely pessimistic about ki aisa hi hoga, but I think that it's going to be a cycle of getting role models in, schools building that trust. And I think right now private schools are facing a huge, massive trust deficit amongst parents, from the way they've been exploiting parents. Not everybody, a small minority, but who exploit parents in the name of uniform, overpaying, books and all that. I think there's a lot to be done in terms of trust deficit, not just the schools, but teachers, everybody. I think once that changes, maybe we'll have better people in education. And that's sad to say this kind of phrase, that we need better people in education. And every time I have to say that.
That's true. I think better people in education will definitely be there. salary, of course, remains a challenge, and I believe that's an external factor. But as you rightly said, if the heart is in place, everything else can be worked out, and the salary can also be worked out. And we are not here to fight with the system, but definitely alternative systems can be created where they can earn supplement income. So there are means and ways today where you can earn supplement income and support the salary that you're already getting from school. So having said that, if Hamid, we could take two more minutes. There are a couple of questions in the chat. If you could address those.
Yeah, certainly.
Dr. Pushpa.
I think I missed that question in the
The
chat.
vast syllabus with Sharirik and Mansik Vikas. How do we manage this challenge along with syllabus? So I'm not sure whether this is directed towards pre-primary, because in pre-primary, looking at vast syllabus.
That's an out of syllabus question.
Question,
Yeah.
I think.
Out of syllabus question. We're not going to answer it.
Okay. The next one is, what is the reason behind the lack of creativity? Again, it's a pretty generic question. Reason behind lack of creativity in terms of the teachers, you mean to say, whether teachers are not able to get hold of new ideas, or is it the syllabus again? If Mr. Sarthak could point it out, but I think these are all generic questions. I think teachers, it would be great if you would be more specific and attempt framing your questions in a way that will help answer, get the panelists to answer it. Yeah. So apart from these two questions, I don't think we have any other questions. So, yep. All right. In case anybody would like to take the lack of creativity, in case anybody would like to attempt that.
Lack of creativity we talked about, I think, comes from your, if your heart is in the right place, you will automatically come up with creative solutions. If it's the students, we're always telling kids, don't do this, follow this syllabus. Ye syllabus mein hai hi nahi. So we spend all 14 years trying to stifle children's creativity and make them conformist into this straight-jacketed approach. I think that will all change. I think AI is offering a big hope now into creating, I think, personalized learning paths is the only way forward. And I think we are almost there now. We're almost there. And I think educators would need to understand their roles are going to shift big time, from understanding this data to personalizing their approach. The role of parents is going to change. It's going to be an interesting roller coaster time now with all this thing coming in. A lot of tools. I think a lot of edtech companies are going to innovate in this space as well and help schools make better decisions as adults. So yeah, so I think that's going to happen big time. I think as educators, you need to be prepared for that. It's not going to be the same 10 year के जो आपके notes हैं वही आके अपने board पे लिख दिया. This is your homework. This is your classwork. Copy your classwork copy into homework copy. Chapter done. The child goes to tuitions, come back, same standard exams, वही 10-year exams. That all is going to go out of the window now. Just a matter of a couple of years now. Saida, I need to be excused.
Yeah.
I just
All right. So I think we don't have any more questions. So I think we will end the session here. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Amol, for sparing your time. I know that all of you, three of you, have some of the other engagements today. So thank you so much for sparing some time for this panel discussion, and we look forward to even meet you in person and collaborate more often on our Teachers Are Teachers community app. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all the participants as well.
Thank you so much.